Welcome everybody to 52 Living Ideas. We are studying Bhagavad Gita. We are on chapter 17. We're going to start with verses 1 through 4. We're going to have 2 English readings, and then we're going to have Yogeshwar talking about these 4 verses, and then we'll continue. After Yogeshwar comments, everybody is welcome to make their own comments on this material, ask any questions, and then we'll go to the next set of verses. That's the plan. Let's get started. Ambika.
Arjuna said, those who offer sacrifice full of faith, Shraddha, though abandoning the rule of the Shastra, O Krishna, what is their standing credence, Sattva or Rajas or Tamas? The Blessed Lord said, triple is the kind of Shraddha, faith, of the embodied souls born of their own nature of being, their svabhava, sattvic and rajasic and tamasic, that now here. The Shraddha of everyone accords, O Bharata, to the truth of his being. Man's very being is Shraddha Maya, faith in hearing, faith instinct, faith essenced. Of whatever Shraddha one is, that verily he is. The sattvic ones offer sacrifice to the gods, the rajasic to the yakshas and rakshasas, demigods and demons. The others who are tamasic people offer sacrifice to the elemental powers and ghosts.
Thank you. David.
Yes, thanks. Chapter 17, verse 1. Arjuna said, O Krishna, what of those who transgress the injunctions of the Vedic scriptures, but perform sacrifices possessing faith? Is the conviction of those to be goodness, passion, or ignorance? Lord Krishna, the possessor of all opulences, said, the faith of the embodied manifests in 3 ways: goodness, passionate, and nescience, conforming unto the impressions of past life experiences. Now hear about this. The faith of everyone comes according to the perceptions of the mind, O Arjuna. The living personality is the embodiment of faith. One is identified by whatever faith one has. Those in goodness worship the demigods. Those in passion worship the demoniac. Other persons in nescience, the spirits of the dead and ghosts.
Thank you. Yogeshwar.
अथ सप्तदशोऽध्यायः अर्जुन उवाच ये शास्त्रविधिमुत्सृज्य यजन्ते श्रद्धयान्विताः तेषां निष्ठा तु का कृष्ण सत्त्वमाहो रजस्तमः. In chapter 16, Krishna, in the last 2 verses, talked about Shastra Vidhi. What does the essence of all the scriptures mean? And what does it mean to fall off the essence of the scriptures, yet follow the scriptures yet? Yeah? Because you're following the word of the scripture, forgetting the essence. And then Krishna tells Arjuna in the last verse that is why you should follow the scriptures and know what you're supposed to do and what you're not supposed to do by the scriptures. Now, Krishna is not telling him something to follow something which is dead. Krishna is telling Arjuna to follow something that is fully alive at that time. And the essence is also fully alive at that time. From what is alive is when you can know what to do and what not to do. If something is already dead, like some traditions have already derailed, and you can see. So in that case, you cannot know what to do and what not to do from there. And it also does not come at par with the society that you're living in. So Krishna here is telling Arjuna that this is what you're supposed to do. And it's all written down. And Krishna is not saying that do not follow your experience or do not follow what anubhava you have. Yeah, Krishna is saying follow that, because Krishna is also saying that know your swabhava, know who you are. Now, why the Shastras? Krishna is explaining that so many people have walked the path in different ways. Maybe not particularly the way that you would like to walk the path, but there's normally like the three paths that we talk about, or you may say four that are talked about in Gita. So generally, people have walked the paths and have known the difficulties, have known the best ways to get over the difficulties, or even the best ways to go on the path, maybe even go faster, or if sometimes fast is really dangerous, then go safer. Yeah, how to go safer rather than fast, which some of us would like to do. Then Krishna is saying no, all those, because it's already written in scriptures, and not because it's just written in scriptures, but because you know that this is following my path. You know who you are, and then you see that this is following my path. And I can see it's like, normally our eyesight is to a certain range. What helps our eyesight to go beyond that range? Maybe a telescope. Yeah. So if somebody tells us to use a telescope to see maybe a planet that is far out in space, would say that, oh, I can see that planet from here. But then you see it like a star from here, not like a planet. Put the telescope there in front of your eyes, and then you'll see it as a planet. Krishna here is telling Arjuna the same thing. Know who you are, yes, but then you will have the way you are right now. You'll have some things that you'll need that you can't do on your own, and others have done already. So why go through all the turmoil again? Yet it's already written in the scriptures. Why not just follow the scriptures? Not following them blindly, yeah, but then know your path and then match it with the scriptures. That is what Krishna is telling Arjuna. And then Arjuna is saying that in chapter 14, you had told me about 3 types of qualities of Maya, yeah, of the qualities of Prakruti. Now, these 3 qualities of Prakruti, as you had mentioned, they are everywhere. They are everywhere in this world. There is no place that Prakruti is not. That means there is no place that these 3 qualities are not. Meaning that even in the essence of the scriptures that you are talking about, Arjuna is saying that there must be these 3. Yeah, even though you're talking about the scriptures, and Arjuna is pointing out a subtle point here, which sometimes we miss, that the essence of the scriptures have these 3 qualities. It's not a small point to notice. Somebody would like to think that scriptures, for scriptures, they are out of the world. Then they don't have these 3 qualities. But since they are in the world, like they are with us people, these 3 qualities are also in there. if something is in the manifest form, whether it's through words, whether it's written or said out, or even like you can see it in any form, then it has these three qualities. There's nothing that is void of these three qualities, even the scriptures. Another point Arjuna is pointing out here is Shraddha. Yeah? And Krishna had not talked about Shraddha in chapter 16. Rather, Krishna has been talking about Shraddha slowly by slowly. In chapter 2, there is a bit of Shraddha, like one verse of Shraddha somewhere. Yeah? In chapter 7 and 9, there are some parts of Shraddha somewhere. Now, Krishna has not talked about Shraddha right in chapter 16, but Shraddha is one essence that Krishna has been pulling from the Gita since. He's been pulling with Arjuna since he's been talking with Arjuna. So from the beginning, Shraddha has been a main point. Now Arjuna here is asking these two things together. One, that these scriptures, I know they have sattva, raja, and tama. And the person who is following the scriptures here also has sattva, raja, and tama. Nothing is void of these three. Now, the link between these two, which is the Shraddha, the link between the Shastra themselves and the person, the link in between, which is called Shraddha, it must also have these three, Sattva, Raja, and Tama. Because if the two ends have these three qualities, then the link between should also have these three qualities. So Arjuna here is asking, those who leave the path of the scriptures, those who leave the essence of the scriptures, yet they are doing all these different types of sacrifices, these different types of yajnas. Yet we can see that they have this type of Shraddha. They have a type of Shraddha. Arjuna is saying, what is their Shraddha? Yeah? Is their Shraddha the type of Sattva, or is it Raja or Tama? What is their Shraddha made of? So Krishna first is not going to directly answer, and we can see that everywhere, even in chapter 2 or chapter 3. Krishna doesn't directly answer in the next verse. Krishna takes some 6-7 verses to answer one question, and that is what is called an elaborate answer. And some questions like that Arjuna has, Krishna even takes a full chapter to answer them. So what Krishna is doing is not lay an answer wordfully in front of Arjuna. Rather, what Krishna is trying to do is, has Arjuna understood what I'm trying to say? And then formulate another answer for him. Has Krishna yet understood? Not yet. So let me try to get it from another angle from which he may understand. It's not the wordful use that Krishna is doing. Krishna is trying to get Arjuna understand any of the concepts. If Arjuna understands these concepts, then there is no question in Arjuna's mind after that. So Krishna here is saying, Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Trividha Bhavati Shraddha Dehi Namsa Swabhavaja Satviki Rajasi Chaiva Tamasi Cheti Tam Shranu. So Krishna is saying, yes, you are right. There are three types of Shraddha. Now, Shraddha, what is normally translated in English as Shraddha is either it's faith or belief. Now, I would like to stick with faith, but still, I would like to make it better in a way, explain it. Try using my words, putting some words into Shraddha, maybe that you could understand it better. Because wrapping my words just around faith, I don't really think that that is fully taking the essence of Shraddha.
Can I
Now,
do one thing? Can I ask you one
Yeah,
thing?
sure,
Can you
sure.
tell people the meaning of the word Shraddha? You know, what are the roots?
Yeah, that's what I was coming to. That Shraddha is mainly it's mainly translated to this faith and belief. But then I would like to put my words around it a bit so that it's easier to understand it. Now, Shraddha is made out of the root Shrad. The root is Shrad. Now, that root, in essence, like Shrad, it means that you have seen something. Yes, you've seen something. And now you're saying that it is there, even though right now it's not in front of your eyes. That is the word of the root. That's the meaning of the root Shrad. So it's not just about saying that something exists, even though you've not seen it. What Shraddha is saying that you've seen a spark of what is. You've known what you are. But then you see that doesn't stay forever. When you have it in a small form, the first time you have it, it doesn't stay forever. It comes and goes. So there is that now. What Shraddha means here is you've had a spark of what you think is right. Yeah, you've had a spark. Now you're looking for where that spark came from. You're not only behind the spark now, you're looking for where the spark came from. So it is not like belief, because belief will be like, if I put the word belief, it will be like, do I believe in the sun? It's no, you can't say that because the sun is there. I don't need to believe in it. And even like having faith that maybe my mother or my father exists. Right now, they're not here. Yes, I know that. But then I don't need to have faith in that. Yeah, I know they do exist. So Shraddha is something like, you know it does exist. It's just not in front of you right now. That's the only difference. It's like it was there at one point in time. Now, at this point in time, it's not there, but you are constantly in search for it, constantly looking for it. Where does it exist? Where is its source? So that I can have it forever. That I would like to put as Shraddha. And then what happens is, this is like what Shraddha means. Now, what it is put in practice as, that's also another explanation of Shraddha. What it's put in practice as. Now, what it's put in practice as, in essence, is when we say that this person has Shraddha of doing puja, yeah, what it's put in practice as is that you have that willpower of doing that work. That is also another essence of Shraddha. That's how Shraddha is also described as. Even by commentators in Sanskrit, it's also described like that. So Shraddha, I would like to put in those two perspectives. One perspective is that you have seen it for real. You have experienced it for real. Now, the only thing remaining is looking for the source of it. And another part is having that willpower to do that. And that willpower also, in another way, why I take this translation is that you know what the puja brings to you. You know what prarthana brings to you. Prarthana meaning prayer. But then, translating these words sometimes directly into English, it does translate, but then the meaning that is taken by people up is varied. Because what prarthana means uh, in Indian tradition is not just going to the temple to pray. Prarthana is like a state of being. Yeah, prarthana maya. That's how you're supposed to be. Not just that we go to the temple maybe one day in the week, and then we ask for what we want from God. Yeah, and prarthana is nothing like that, because what the norm that is there, that if you ask for something from God, yeah, then one thing is that he doesn't know that you need it. And then another thing is that, are you trying to change the mind of God, or you're saying that he's done something that you think is not good? Yeah. So it's also a question on his benevolence and a question of his karuna. Karuna meaning his compassion. So do you want to question his compassion by asking for something? So that you don't want to do. What prarthana essentially means is being in a state of gratefulness. So prayer in Indian tradition is gratefulness. You're praying to God, you're talking to God, not asking for something, but being grateful that everything exists, like existence is there, and being grateful that this body as it is, however it may be, it exists for myself to do the work that I'm supposed to do. Because without the body, we know that this work that we are doing, it can't be done. At least we know that without the body as it is right now, maybe if I had one hand, I wouldn't be able to do the work as I was supposed to do. So having these two hands is also being grateful. Yeah? I should be grateful for that. So where prayer comes in for prarthana in Indian tradition is not, it accepts where you are right now rather than longing for more. And acceptance in what we have right now is more profound in a way, I believe. That where this profoundness comes is because you accept what you have right now, you can be better in the future. Because you can also accept the future as it is, rather than speculating what the future should bring to you, and then maybe you don't have what it should bring to you in the future. So that is prarthana. And Shraddha is these two ways that I have spoken about.
Let me request one
yes,
thing.
sure.
I think what you said about Shraddha, the first version, is very profound. Can you repeat it for people?
Sure. So Shraddha, the main root verb for Shraddha is Shrad. Shrad means that you have seen something, you've had a spark of something, you've experienced something. Right now, you do not experience it in the same way, and you long to experience it again. You long to find the source of that experience. So being in that state of not having it right now, but having had it, now the step that you take ahead in finding the source is the Shraddha. It is both now. This way I take both explanations, whereby it's both in a way. It's one is mentally, yes, you're looking for it, but then even physically you're doing something for it to come towards you. So mentally and physically, both versions do exist of Shraddha. And sometimes we may be taken Because sometimes we see that somebody is doing so much physically. It doesn't essentially mean that he has Shraddha, because Shraddha has these two legs. Without one leg, it can't walk. It should have the physical aspect, and it should also have the mental aspect. Shraddha can't, it's like a bird trying to fly on one wing. It can't. It should have two wings so that it can fly. And there are so many perspectives to Shraddha. There are very many. Yeah. And somebody could translate it to faith, as normally it's translated as, and I've read in so many translations in English. So in a way, to explain what happens mentally in Shraddha, that is fine. But the only aspect faith is missing in Shraddha is the aspect of having experienced it once, at least. Whereas how I understand faith in English language is that even though you've not experienced anything, you should just have faith. Like you should just go for it. Like taking a leap of faith. Yeah. You have not seen what is going to come, but you just take a leap of faith. Yeah. So there are different ways of explaining this, but this is how I felt it should be explained. So these are three types of Shraddha. Now, how I view Shraddha is the link between what the person is right now, because what we are right now is not the ultimate. In one way, it is the ultimate. We are the ultimate right now. But then as we are, it's not that we don't have to do anything. We are constantly in the process. So in that perspective, there is the scriptures that we have to put ahead of us. Yeah. So even the scriptures will be by the Shraddha of these three types of people, because three types of people want to reach somewhere. And the link between the scriptures and the person, the link is also what will have these three distinct qualities. That's why Krishna here is saying that, yes, there are these three types of Shraddha, and they are in all these people. How is it? Swabhavaja. It's not something that you can create. Yeah, it is swabhavaja. Swabhava, meaning that it is their own being. It's created from their own being. Bhava means, there are different ways of translating bhava. Bhava can mean feeling. Bhava can mean being true. Yeah. And bhava also means being, like a state of being. Bhava, to be. So it comes from the root bhu. The more dhatu is bhu, and the meaning is to be. So swabhava means your own being. So what Shraddha is created of is not something that is alien. It's created out of your own being. Because what Krishna here is trying to mean is that, scriptures you're putting outside. There's something that is outside. And now you're putting a link between yourself and something that is outside. What Krishna is now essentially saying that what Shraddha is, yeah, what the scripture is essentially the unmanifest. It is that which you're supposed to reach. It is the ultimate. Now, what goes towards it is also the ultimate. It's also your own being. It comes from your own being. If something would not come from your own being, it will not take you to the ultimate. So that is Swabhavaja. It's created from your own being. Three types: Sattviki, Rajasi, Chaiva, Tamasi, Cheti, Tamshrana. So there are of these three types. I assert this. and listen about them. Like I'm going to talk about them. So listen attentively now. Sattvanurupa sarvasya Shraddha bhavati bharata Shraddhamayoyam purusho yo yat Shraddha sa eva saha. Sattvanurupa sarvasya Shraddha bhavati bharata. Sattva here meaning antakaran, meaning the manas, buddhi, chit, and ahankar. This is what makes the sattva. This is what makes the inner dwellings, like what we think as of thought, emotions, and intellect in the Western perspective. So whatever is happening inside is called sattva. And what Krishna here is saying, in essence, is sattvanurupa sarvasya Shraddha bhavati bharata. Yeah? It is from the inside that the Shraddha comes. It is according to how your internal workings are, how your thoughts are, how your emotions are, is how the Shraddha is going to be. Not that the Shraddha doesn't come from the ultimate within yourself, it comes from there. But like a rays, if it's passed through the lens of a red glass, yeah, what will it show in front? It will show as if it's red. So the same Krishna is saying here that Sattvanurupa, what Krishna said in the verse above is Swabhavaja. One thing, Shraddha is Swabhavaja. Where it is from your own being. And Anurupa, meaning in the form of, like what you see it as. So what form does it take? So if you want to give Shraddha a form, then it will be in the form of what your internal being is. Not the ultimate being, but how your internal dwellings are, how your mind is, how your intellect is, how your emotions are. What type of sanskaras you've had over the past. All that makes up your Shraddha. And that is not for only one type of being. Yeah, it is of all beings. Of all beings, their Shraddha is Sattvanurupa. It is going to be passed through the lens of their thoughts. It's going to be passed through the lens of their emotions. It's going to be passed through the lens of their sanskaras. Krishna here is adding one thing, that Shraddha Maya Ayam Purusha. He who is Shraddhavan, or who is Maya, and what Maya means, like what we talked about of Prarthana Maya, it is like a state of being. Maya means you're in that state of being. There's nothing that is left out of you when you're in Shraddha, or when you're in Prarthana, there's nothing that is left out of you. There's no part of you that is saying that, oh, I have to do this. This thing is still remaining to do. There's no part of you that still wants something else. Maya means your whole chetas, your whole chetana is within that one. So here we can see that when Krishna is saying Shraddha Maya, it is utmost concentration. And how does that utmost concentration come? In one thing. Krishna is saying Shraddha Maya. What does Shraddha Maya mean? He is like he is drowned into this whole ocean of Shraddha. That is when you become Shraddha Maya. When you are drowned in the ocean of Shraddha, at that time, what happens? Yo yat Shraddha sa eva sa. Whatever your Shraddha is like, is who you are. Another way of saying this, if if a person who is doing karma yoga would look at this, yeah, he would say, because what a person of karma yoga is saying that, where does my concentration stay? When I'm walking, when I'm doing some handwork, is when my concentration stays. Yeah? So what he will understand from this is, whatever type of work I'm doing, I am that sort of person, where my concentration is going. Yeah, what type of work I'm doing. Now, if a person is of jnana yoga, what you'll understand from here is, wherever my concentration goes, wherever my attention goes, like if I'm attentive to something, then I am that. And if you understand this, like clearly, like if you can be so attentive, sometimes you're so attentive to something, maybe to music as well, that you forget yourself. Yourself is not there. It's only the music that is there. That's when Krishna is saying that when you're so attentive to something, or when something drowns you, where Maya is used, when something drowns you, you become that. You become the music. You don't remain out of the music. And even better, a person, not a person who is listening to the music, but a person who is creating the music. Just imagine the state in which he is. There is no difference between him and the music. It is all one. That's when it can come in so much resonance, comes in so much perfection. And now, how a person of bhakti would view this, Shraddha. So, whatever you love, it's who you become. Now, we normally love things, but then our love is short-sighted, or it's for a short time. It's short-termed as well. What people in the Bhakti Sampradaya here do is they take the love and they extend it over periods. Yeah. And one thing that I truly notice about the Bhakti Sampradaya here is, they are, in a way, they are emotionally intelligent. They know where to put their love. They know where not to put their love. They know where to hate and where not to hate. Like, in a way, they can do it. Like the way we can normally know what to think about. Yeah. We know, we are intelligent about what to think about, what not to think about. They have a practice of what to put their emotions towards and what not to put their emotions towards. In that perspective, wherever they put their emotions, they see and they feel it, that I have become this. If they're in love with whatever they are revering to, then they become that. They become that guna. And what they do in practice is, if they want to become, if they want to have a quality, like say they don't want to have, they don't want to become angry, what they do, in essence, they do dhyana. They love a person who doesn't become angry. That's what they do. They don't try to concentrate on something or do anything. They just love the person who doesn't become angry. What happens is, and when you see it, it's like, can this really happen? But then you can see it really happens. Yeah. And they become such a person that they also become void of anger. You don't know how, but just loving that person makes you void of anger. So that is the type of practice they do. And this is how they do interpret it. In a way, through their practice, you can see, because they are made of emotions. Yeah. So whatever emotion they have, they are it. They're fully it. And what we understand right now is the type of mind we have, or the type of intellect, the type of nischaya we have done is who we are. what we have caught up with our mind, with our intellect, is who we are. And it's not wrong. This is for Jnana Yoga, for Sankhya Yoga. This is what is. Whatever they have distinctly known that this is it, with their mind, with their intellect, that is who they are. For example, if a person has a question, a person who is of Jnana Yoga, if they have a question, if you show them the right direction through the answer, then their whole life takes the turn through their intellect. And you can see this. Yeah? So what Krishna here is trying to say that whatever type of Shraddha you have, whether it's Jnana Parak Shraddha or it's Bhakti Parak Shraddha, yeah? You are it, and your whole life bases upon it. If somebody, if you're a person of intellect, if somebody can allow you to understand how something is, then your whole life will turn according to that understanding. For bhakti, if somebody can train his emotions and direct them in that way, then his whole life turns in that way. So for a person of bhakti, you don't tell him, or like, if you want to stop anger, you concentrate on something else, or you do some types of practices. For them, it's emotion. Just love something or love somebody, and their work is done. Now Krishna is talking about the type of Shraddha and how it affects what is written in scriptures, how it affects the person who is doing what is written in the scriptures, the essence of the scriptures. What is it? Yajante satvika devan yaksharakshansi rajasaha pretan bhutagananschaanye yajante tamasajanaha. What do those who have sattvic shraddha do? They pray, they do prarthana to the devas. What does deva mean? Deva means that road that takes you directly towards the center of your being. That is deva. Now, why are there so many names of devas? There's Vayu Deva, there's Surya Deva. Why so many? The reason there's so many different types of names is there's not one way of going towards the center. Somebody would go towards the ocean, yeah? Just the breeze of the ocean would captivate him, would say, there is something unique here. Somebody would go to the forest and feel the same way. Somebody could feel the same way, even staying in their own room. Yeah? It doesn't matter where you are or what is coming upon you. What matters is the state you're getting towards. How do I explain the state that I'm getting towards? What I will do if I'm a person who goes to the forest and experiences that, I will say, come with me to the forest and experience it. The other person will say, come to the ocean and experience it. I will allow you to experience what I'm experiencing. In this same way, yeah, somebody revert to Surya Narayana, to the Surya Deva, and experience something that takes him to the core of his being. In that essence, that person told another person, you can get to your essence. You can get to the core of your own being. How is that so? Do these prayers. Become prarthanamaya to Surya, because Surya gives you a lot. Surya gives you life. The sun gives you life. Yeah? And allows you to do all the work that you do during daytime. just this, just these words would captivate the other person in that time. Yeah? And they would start becoming prarthanamaya towards Surya. It's not just for the sun, but it is to get to your own core of being, to experience what the other person is experiencing. For example, doing Surya Namaskar, what does it do? Surya Namaskar is towards the sun, but then the benefits it brings is not for the sun, it is for your own self. You are doing something which is called Surya Namaskar. It's called bowing down towards the sun. That is Surya Namaskar. When you're bowing down towards the sun, there are 12 different postures that you do in the yoga tradition when you're doing Surya Namaskar. In that, what are you doing? You're bowing down to the sun. But then, even in the yoga tradition, what benefits are written down is towards the practitioner. This is what you will get out of the Surya Namaskar. This is what you're getting. You're getting to the core of your own being. You're knowing how your body is, how your intellect is, how your mind is. And then you're presenting it in front of Surya. When you do that, you yourself realize that this is who I am. That is Yajante Satvika Deva. Yaksha Rakshansi Rajasa. What do those who of Rajasa Prakruti do? Yaksha Rakshansi. Now, what Yaksha means, like Kubera is a Yaksha. What Yaksha means, one profound meaning of Yaksha is a person who is really wealthy, like Kubera. Kuber is called he who has all the wealth of the devas. Like he has all the wealth. He's like the bank of the devas. So if you want to look for a person who is Rajasic, what will he do? He will look up to people who are of that kind, who have the money, who also do all to protect the money as well. So that is Yaksha. That's what Yaksha means. A person who collects money and protects the money. So for now, we can say sort of a bank for the devas. We can also see that that is what Rajasa means in its essence. Rajasa meaning you're supposed to be going towards, accumulating wealth. That is what a Rajasa person does. Accumulating wealth, accumulating fame, prestige, all that. And how will he do that? He has to refer to somebody. And you know how normally what we do right now is just have a coach and have him teach us some sport or something, or have a mentor in business and have him teach us some tricks and tips. What used to happen at that time is that you have a person, yeah, and you don't just go to him when you're in problems. You revere that person. Yeah, it's like it's not the thing that you do everything he does, but then just having that respect towards him, like the respect towards the guru versus the respect that we normally have towards teachers these days. It's totally different. So that respect was what was given. And that respect is what brings the Rajasa within themselves as well. They want to go towards Rajasa, it's fine. They can go towards Rajasa. And a person who is full of Rajasa will help them go towards the Rajasa, towards the money, towards the fame. And then even Rakshansi. Yaksha, Rakshansi. We've talked about the Yakshas. Now the Rakshansi, Rajasa. There is a subtle difference between Daitya and Rakshasa. You should understand this. Yeah? What Daitya means? Daitya goes in the category of Tamasi. However, Rakshasa, which is Rakshansi, what Krishna is saying here, Rakshansi, the main root verb that this is made of is Raksha. And Rakshati means to protect. Yes, Rakshati means to protect. Now, not everyone in their comment will have this meaning. But to get to the root word, which is Raksha, which means Rakshati. Now, what Rakshati means is to protect. What a person of Rajasa needs is protection. Whether it's his land, his wealth, his fame, he always needs this type of protection. And there were those people who used to protect, not protecting the land like the army does, or not protecting the political structure, rather protecting your wealth. For example, like the insurance companies do right now. Now, the insurance companies are different from the banks, but in a way they protect our wealth. Whereas the banks just collect our wealth. So we could say that the yakshas are like the banks. And this is just an example. They don't really fit exactly, but then just to give a feeling of what it would feel like. Now, yaksha would be like the bank, and the rakshansi would be like the insurance company. Now, a person who is doing business needs these two. Like it's a must to have these two by their side. So this is what Krishna is saying, that you go towards them if you're of a Rajasa type. Pretan bhuta ghanans chanye yajante tamasavrita. What will those who are of tamasic vritti do? They would go towards the pret, the bhut. What bhuta means? First, to explain what bhuta means. Bhuta means those who have already been. Now, as we have discussed, bhava comes from the root which is bhu, to be. Now, bhuta means the past tense of to be, meaning that those who have already been, those who were there before and are not there right now. That is what bhuta means. Like we say bhutakal in Hindi. Bhutakala means the past tense. So that's the same here with bhuta. Preta. Preta meaning those who have left their bodies right now. Yes. But then they, for example, they have something that is still undone in this world. There's still something that is undone in this world. They're still being, like, for example, when we are leaving this body, we feel that there's something undone with our body. Like we feel attracted to this body again. What happens at that time? At that time, we are in a state of preta. Preta coming from the root of ether. Ether means gone. But then what preta is saying is that they're not really gone. Yeah, preta, because if you just take ether, it means gone. But then preta means that they are not able to be gone, meaning that they're stuck in between. Now, it doesn't mean that there's a category for those who are stuck in between the two worlds, like there's no two worlds or three worlds here. But then what it means is that you're not able to get out of the body as smoothly as you're supposed to.
Let's see, looks like there is a problem. Just a second. Yogeshwar, we can't hear you. Usually this fixes itself in a minute or two. We'll wait for Yogeshwar to come back. Meanwhile, what I want to do is to read you the commentary of Sri Aurobindo on chapter 17. I strongly recommend Sri Aurobindo, his translation as well as his commentary on Gita. So I definitely recommend it very highly. So he says, this is his introductory note to chapter 17. The Gita has made a distinction between action according to the license of personal desire and action done according to Shastra. Evanik, when Yogeshwar comes back, oh, there he is. Let's see. Okay, I think he's still having a problem with his sound. He's still trying to connect to the audio. Give me a second. Okay, so Evanik, just let me know whenever Yogeshwar is back fully. I'm going to wait for a second here. Okay, all right, let me continue. Let's see here. Sorry. Let's see, Yogeshwar. Okay, so just Evanik or Jude, let me know when Yogeshwar's sound is back. I'll continue reading until then. The Gita has made a distinction between actions according to the license of a personal desire and actions done according to the Shastra. But we see also that there is a freer tendency in man other than the leading of his desires and other than his will to accept the law. The fixed idea, the safe governing rule of Shastra. The individual, frequently enough, the community at any moment of its life is seen to turn away from the Shastra, becomes impatient of it, loses that form of its will and faith, and goes in search of another law, which it is now more disposed to accept as the right rule of living and regard as a more vital or higher truth of existence. The Shastra is something impersonal to the individual, and that gives it its authority over the narrow personal law of its members. Shastra is scriptures. But at the same time, it is personal to the collectivity and is the outcome of its experience, its culture, or its nature. It is not in all its form and spirit that the ideal rule of fulfillment of the self or the eternal law of the master of nature, just a second, although it may contain in itself in small or larger measure indications, preparations, illuminating glimpses of that far greater thing. And the individual may have gone beyond the collectivity and be ready for a greater truth, a wider walk, a deeper intention of the life spirit. But what then shall be the secure base of an action which departs both from the guidance of desire and from the normal law? For the rule of desire has an authority of its own, no longer safe or satisfactory to us, as it is to the animal or as it might have been to a primitive humanity, but still, so far as it goes, founded on a very living part of our nature and fortified by its strong indications and the law, the Shastra. Yogeshwar, I'm going to complete this reading and then I will hand it back to you. This I'm reading from Sri Aurobindo's commentary at the beginning of the chapter. The Shastra has behind it all the authority of the long-established rule, old successful sanctions, and a secure past experience. But this new movement is of the nature of a powerful adventure into the unknown, or partly known, a daring development, and a new conquest. And what then is the clue to be followed, the guiding light on which it can depend, or its strong basis in our being? The answer is that the clue and the support is to be found in man's Shraddha, his will to believe, to live what he sees, and to think to be the truth of himself and of existence. In other words, this movement is man's appeal to himself or to something potent and compelling in himself or in universal existence for the discovery of his truth. Discovery of his truth, his law of living, his way to fullness and perfection. And everything depends on the nature of his faith, the thing in himself or in the universal soul, of which he is a portion or manifestation, to which he directs it, and on how near he gets by it to his real self and the self or the true being of the universe. The Gita deals with this question on its own line of spiritual teaching and self-discipline. For Arjun puts immediately a suggestive query from which the problem or one aspect of it arises. So again, I really love the description of Shraddha, which Yogeshwar gave. It's like holding on to the truth. So you see a glimpse of the truth, and then you hold on to it. That the is like to hold, to provide a basis, to keep your mind on. And Shraddha part comes from Sat, the truth. So you get a glimpse of truth and then you hold on to it. All right, Yogeshwar, please go on.
So I was explaining Pretan and Bhuta. So Bhuta are those who have already left. Now Preta are those who are not able to leave the body at par. For example, when we are leaving the body and we are attached to our body, or we are attached to something that our body is related to, either we are attached to money or even something or someone even as well. We are attached to someone else who we love. In that state, the way we leave our body is not the most appropriate way of leaving the body. It's not like we'll be able to totally leave the body. See, what will happen at that time is our body will have some essence of ourselves. We'll leave ourselves in the body. Like, how should I explain this to you? We shall go away from the body, but then it's like, when we want to come back to the body, we leave some, like, we have all heard the stories of like Hansel and Gretel, yeah? So what they did when they went to the forest, they didn't want to go to the forest and stay there. So what they did was to leave stones, like pebbles, on the way. When they didn't have pebbles, what did they use? They used breadcrumbs on the way when the stepmother was taking them to the forest. Now, what happens is we leave breadcrumbs on the way. We can't leave pebbles, but we leave breadcrumbs on the way. We know they're going to get destroyed after we go. Yeah, we won't be able to find a trail back into the body, but we want to come back. So that's what happens. So we leave traces in our body. We won't be able to leave our body fully. Now, in the same way, so that's the difference between preta and bhuta. Now, what the tamasa jana will do, like for example, we have seen so many people who even go into these, if you're aware of the practices that happen in India, then there are even those people who practice in what do you call? It will not really be a mortuary, but then where they burn the people, like shamshan. Yeah. So they burn the people there. Now they do their all types of like vidhi in that place. So what are they basically doing? They're basically in that place for the bhuta and the preta. Those who have left their body totally, like there's no essence of any breadcrumb in their body. But then there are also those who have not been able to leave their bodies totally. As in, their bodies are dead, but then they tried to leave some breadcrumbs in their body. In that essence, they could not leave their bodies totally. So they have those sort types of practices that they do in such an environment. Now, that environment allows tamasa guna to prevail. Like we know, tamasa guna is that which is of sleeping, laziness, and what we'll call total tamasa guna is like death. Yeah? And what we'll call total rajasa guna is birth. Like birth is totally rajasa. Well, would not call it totally, but then like it's 99% rajasa. Because there's nothing in the world that is totally one type of guna. That we've also understood in the past. That there's nothing that is totally one type of guna. But when I say it is like rajasa or it's tamasa, it means that it's like 99%. And then there's a half and half percent in sattva and tamasa. So in that perspective, they go to search environments because there is that environment of death. And what death is, it's like it brings the most of tamoguna. When you're in such an environment and you want to do something that is tamasi, it's really easy. That is why Krishna here is saying that bhutan, pretan, bhuta ganas chanya, yajante tamasa jana. They do all these types of sacrifices, yeah, which are of that kind. Now, one thing that I would like to put in front here, Shraddha is something that you do with your own will. It's like that comes from inside. I would more appropriately take it with a hobby or a talent. But rather what happens in today's world is we are more attracted to maybe some things like money, like whatever brings money, will take the road. Or what is the best or the easiest way to get the money, will take the road. Sometimes the fastest way to take the money will take the road. Sometimes the safest way to get the money will take the road. But that's not what Shraddha is. Shraddha is something that happens from within. Like you should not try to put anything in front of. For example, a person who has a hobby, he doesn't say that I'm doing this hobby because my body will be fit. Or I'm doing this hobby because I will maybe become a tennis player in internationals. No, it's just a hobby. Like it's done for its own sake. Even Shraddha here, it's done for its own sake. It's like whatever type of person you are, whatever you can do for its own sake, you should do it. And these people who have been said Rajasa, these are a different category of Rajasa, like they're purely Rajasa from their own sanskaras. It's not like they're running behind money or they're running behind fame or something. It's just that their sanskara is such that they know how to collect money, how to protect money, how to do this. It's not that they're running behind money, but it's like their talent. It's like they have that sleight of hand. They can do it. Not the sleight of hand of cheating, but as in they know how to do these transactions. They are good in business, basically. So a person who is good in business, allow him to do business. It's not a bad thing to do. Yeah. So in the same way, Krishna here is saying that those who are really good at sattvika, they will go towards that. Not because they will receive some fame or they will receive some a big stage or something, because it's their Shraddha, because it's coming from their inside. And a person will become a businessman, not because he's getting money or because he's getting fame, just because he can do it at his best. And he is at his own best when he's doing it. Like he feels that emotion from within himself, that I am not going towards business, but business is calling me. That perspective is what Shraddha is called.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you, Yogeshwar. Folks, it's time for comments and questions. I want to ask you one question. I'm very intrigued by one observation of yours. You said birth is 99% Rajas and death is 99% Tamas. What is 99% Sattvic?
So a meditative state, a state of samadhi, is 99% sattvic. Now you see that there is tamasa there and there's rajogun there. Yes, because there will be something going on in your body. For example, if the blood needs to flow in your body, like, breath needs to be there in your body. So that's there. And then the tamas of sitting is also there, but only that much that is necessary for you to be in total sattvic.
Wonderful, great answer. Folks, go ahead and type exclamation mark if you'd like to ask questions or make comments about these 4 verses. Anything about the concept of Shraddha? Anything about the different
So
kinds?
just one thing that I would like to say. So the question has not been answered yet. So if there is a question relating the question of Arjuna, we'll talk about it next week.
Sure.
Yeah. So the answer of the question is in 5 and 6. So we'll talk about the answer next week.
Sounds good. So it's going to be David followed by Joe. David.
Yeah, thanks. I was just curious about Yogeshwar's comment on Eknath Earswan's translation of Shraddha, which, as I put in the chat, was, let's just quote from this a little bit more, that this is a difficult word. Faith is not an adequate translation, exactly as Yogeshwar was saying. And he says the etymology of the word is obscure. It probably has an underlying meaning of what is held in the heart. We might say that our Shraddha is the sum total of our values, what we really hold to be important in our lives. Every human being, Krishna says, is a Shraddhamaya made up of faith, as the Bible puts it. As we think in our heart, so we are.
Go ahead, Yogeshwar.
Yes. So when you're talking about Shraddha and then Shraddha Maya, so these are 2 different perspectives now, because Shraddha Maya is whereby what Krishna here is saying, Shraddha Maya Ayam Purusha, he who is Shraddha Maya. You're not talking about everyone. Now, when Krishna is saying that Sattvanurupa Sarvasya Shraddha Bhavati, there where Krishna is saying Sarvasya, everyone's Shraddha is Sattvanurupa. But then Shraddha Maya is only some particular type of person. One person, like, for example, like I talked about the Bhakti Sampradaya and the Yoga Sampradaya, they are what they concentrate on. Like, they don't know anything else in the world that is happening. They are that. Even in the Bhakti Sampradaya, they are who they love. They become who they love, in essence. In that essence, if you're saying that Shraddha Maya Ayam Purusha, he who is Shraddha Maya is who he becomes, that's fine. But then when we are saying Shraddha as it on its own, because every one of us has Shraddha. And what happens is our Shraddha is a bit split. It's not like one. Whereas for a person who is Shraddha Maya, his Shraddha is one. Because how can you dive into an ocean? You have to totally immerse into it. Like, you have to totally immerse into one type of Shraddha. That's when you can become Shraddha Maya. Whereas what our type of Shraddha is we become interested in something here, and then another day or another month, we're interested in something else. So that, it's like one stream of water. It's going. And then if you take it into 20 different streams of water, it will be called water. That's fine. It's called Shraddha. But then it doesn't have the same force and the same quality as Shraddha Maya should have. So when you're saying that the values that you hold at heart are who you are, yes, but for a person who has one value to stick to, like who has held on to that one value, Shraddha Maya. Whereas for a person who has so many different views, like this may be right, or this may be right, or even this may be right, that is like his split Shraddha. He has Shraddha, yes, but then when it's split, it doesn't do the same work. It doesn't work the same way. That's all. Like,
Wonderful. Thank you. Folks, go ahead and type an exclamation mark if you'd like to ask any questions. Next up is going to be Joe, followed by Rupali. Joe.
Okay, I think you've kind of already answered my question. But the question I have is that, if our faith varies from person to person. And I was just thinking, if our faith is derived from nature, what is that exactly meant by nature? And I am assuming that it has something to do with experiences. But could you elaborate on that a little bit? Does that make sense?
yeah, so nature is your own nature, who you are. Yeah, so that's the nature I'm talking about is your own nature, and that's where it comes from. Swabhavaja. So you've taken the essence of bhava, but then it's also swabhava, your own being. That's where Shraddha comes from.
Let me add one thing. I don't understand this that well, but let me add this based on whatever I understand. I think it is much better to use the word Shraddha as separate from faith, because faith has a lot of connotations. Shraddha is basically holding on to the truth that you see, that you glimpse, holding on to it. Like when you're doing these three natures, I think I like Yogeshwar's 99% examples. Like when you're tamas, you're holding on to death. That's what you're focused on. The past, which is gone, which is basically the death is what you're focused on. When you're rajas, you're focused on new things, new creations, building wealth, things that are going to kind of engage your faculties, those kind of things. Whereas when you are in a meditative state, the thing that you're holding on to is the ultimate truth. So you're just focused on the center, and that's what you're trying to hold on to. So all of these three things are ways of holding are all of them are actions of holding, but they are in three different directions. That's how I understand it.
Thank you. That's completely different than faith is the way I would define it. So thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Rupali.
Hello. So I have something to say about Shraddha from two personal experiences. I would say Shraddha is like if you are going for a surgery and you meet the surgeon, right? You have no idea as a layman what the process is. But then when you meet with the surgeon, you learn the process, you understand, you start developing faith in that person. And then you put your whole life in that person's hands and go for the surgery. That is Shraddha. You believe in that person, but it comes from that kernel of truth that you've experienced with that person. Similarly, I see this with my students, children who don't do well in exams. They are often, they think that they are dumb or not able to do things, but then with proper guidance, they first experience their first success, like the very first time they get good marks. Then they say, wow, I can do this. Now it comes from their own belief, from their own truth, their own experience that, hey, I can do this. Then they're ready to push forward to do whatever it takes to go to the next level. So I think those are just two examples of Shraddha from my point of view. And then, once I feel to go forward, what Yogeshwar was saying, you need Dhyan Yoga, or you have to say, I am that. And to go through the next step of whatever you're doing, you have to believe in, I am that. That's Sthita Prajna, which we talked about in chapter 2. You need Shraddha, you need Karma Yoga, you need Bhakti Yoga, all of that to carry you forward. So those were my 2 cents about Shraddha. And then I have a question about application of Gita in actual life. I don't know if this would be a good time to ask that question.
Rupali, you can go ahead and ask the question. If it is off the topic, then I will let you know. Go ahead.
Okay. So, we always have been talking about doing your actions driven from the center, from your own center. But say there is a person in your alliance where they're not going from the center, they're actually on the periphery, pulling you away from the center, causing distractions, which makes your blood boil, or which they do things intentionally to cause trouble. So how can you then address those people with through your center? Like, how can you manage that disturbance of the periphery by staying at the center?
Sure. So let me put it in a general way. So the question is, there are people going in all kinds of directions. If you are acting from the center, how do you handle people? How do you deal with people who are not going towards the center, who are going exactly the opposite way, or in a tangential way? So any general comments if you would like to make?
Yes, so the general comments are like this. Normally would like to think that they should also be from the center. But then we'll also think about Krishna's life. Like, not everyone around him was from the center. And there's also one thing that we feel that if I am from the center, then I should also expect others to be from the center. But the first thing Krishna would ask himself, am I from the center? Then if I'm from the center, I will do nothing wrong. Yeah, I will always do right to them, whatever they're trying to do to me. One other perspective of right, it's not always to do the right thing they think is for themselves. Sometimes Krishna has also betrayed someone in a way, like Dronacharya, how the killing of Dronacharya went, or even the killing of Bhishma went. Yeah, it's not that Krishna is going away from his center. He's working from his center. But then center, as we have discussed, it doesn't always mean the right for everyone, because there's no one right for everyone. It's a right for, basically, there is that from the center that Krishna is talking from. Yes. And when he is even doing the, like how Bhishma died, putting Shikhandi in front of Arjuna and then from behind Arjuna through arrows, we would think that was like unfair in war. Why would Arjuna hide behind someone and then throw arrows? Like, that's unfair. Because Krishna knew Arjuna would die. Who was on the right side and who was on the wrong side? You have to decide. Yeah. And that decision, one, should not come from the peripheral. That's the first thing. Because if it comes from the peripheral, you'll have a state like, either you'll have a state like Bhishma's, which you'll choose a wrong path, or you'll have a state like Bhima. Bhima was on the right path, like he was on the right side, but his intentions were not aligned. Yeah. Whereas you could also have a state like Arjuna. Yes, he was on the right side. His intentions were good, but then he also had like, should I do this or do this? So that's not a quality of a person who does things from the center. Knowing all these perspectives, being from the center, it's not that you don't have to choose at any one point in time. There's always a choice that is supposed to be made, always in life. But then when you choose from the center, you choose like a judge. You don't choose like, if it's a lawyer from maybe, say, the defendant and, who are they called? The defendant and?
The prosecutor.
Yeah, the prosecutor. So if it's a lawyer of either side, they will pull their own side.
Accuser, sorry, it's accuser, the prosecutor. So accuser is, yeah.
So the accuser and the defendant. So they both pull their own sides. So we should not be at any one of their sides. We shouldn't be any of the lawyers. Neither should we be the people who the lawyers are representing. We should be the judge in this case. Yeah. So when you're the judge, it's like being at the center, deciding from the center. And the judge is like, if he's not taken any bribe or something, yeah, the judge, like initially, what the judge is supposed to be is listen to both, know their situations, and then judge. And the judge is never said to be be on one side, on taking decision on one person's side. He is a decider, like he's in the middle. That's how you're supposed to be. Like, you're supposed to be at the center, and being at the center doesn't mean that you never have to decide. You have to decide, but then you decide looking at both sides, looking at all things. Now, coming to the point of those situations whereby you're working with someone who is at the peripheral, at that time, you also act with them like as if you're at the peripheral, but be at the center. Because when we're acting something, like when we are in the world, if we are always at the center, if we don't, like we are the center, if we don't even act like as if we're the peripheral, we're not normal. Like, it's not a normal interaction. So act normal towards them, like you would. And then there are also some times whereby you have to do kootaniti, like Krishna did. You have to act in a way whereby you have to teach them a lesson so that they don't do this to other people as well. That's also something that you can do acting from the center. It's not that you have to be, because benevolence is also that. That's also compassion towards them, changing their swabhava, changing the bad qualities into good qualities. But do it in a right way. Do it in a rightful way. Yeah, don't do it in unjust way.
Thank you. Next up is Evanik, followed by Kanishka. Evanik.
I have a question. Is it possible for one person's center to be opposed to another person's center?
No, if you're at the center, there's no opposition. There's no two. Like if there's a two, then there's opposition. If there's no two, there's no opposition. Like what will you oppose if there's no two?
So let me just add something. I don't know whether it's going to be helpful. Center is basically the universal principle that is common to everything. It's the ultimate from which everything proceeds. So if you are there, if it is your actual center, see, there are all kinds of apparent centers, like which is ego, right? We have where you identify yourself with your ideas, with your emotions, with your actions, with your place in society. And if you regard that as your center, which is actually a place in the periphery, then there's going to be different. But if you say that, if you are truly focused on the center, that means if you're truly focused on the deepest principle that drives everything, and the other person is doing the same, they are coming from the same place. I don't know whether this helps. Okay. Next up is Kanishka.
So I have a question. I just was wondering that if you are able to realize that you have lost the center, how do you come back to the center? How do you regain that state of center? Because ultimately what I am thinking is if you are trying to work towards your center, you are going to make some mistakes, then try to come back to your center, then make again some mistakes, then try to come back to the center and stay on the center state as long as possible. So I would like some suggestions or any ideas as to how to progress, how to make peace with all of our mistakes that you might have made.
Excellent question. Thank you. Thank you, Kanishka. Go ahead, Yogeshwar.
So one thing is that we have not had any spark of the center, like we don't know what it is. So first thing, like the light is gone in the middle of the night. There's no light at all. And then you have to look for the main switch. So first, you have to have a matchbox in your hand and have a candle. So when you light the matchbox, when you light it, you have to light it in darkness. Now you may miss sometimes. It doesn't mean that you don't light the matchbox. You have to start the light from somewhere, even though it's a small light. Whether it's the light of the matchstick, and then progress it to the candle. And then you can progress it, like now you'll find the switch box and then you'll be able to do something and bring the light up. So in that, it's like a progressive step, I would say. First thing we have to do is in the dark room, the hardest thing is finding the matchstick first and then the candle. Sometimes we find the matchbox, we light the matchstick and then we say it stays for a short time because we've not found a candle to light. In the same way, there's so many small versions of maybe how to control your anger or how to control your like jealousy or something that is given in our environment. We could say those are small like matchsticks that just fly away in time. They only help you once or twice and then they're gone. So what happens is try to light a candle first. Because you can't light a candle on your own. Like you have to have a matchstick, that's obvious. But then using that matchstick, that these small things, the tweaks that we have, of doing something, try to take it on a bigger level, on a larger platform. Like when you're trying to get control of our anger or our jealousy over other people, then take it on a higher platform whereby you can do it on a longer term rather than only on a shorter term, because a candle lasts longer than a matchstick. When you're able to do it on a longer term, not just by these small tweaks, you'll be able to do it. You'll need something that is really large in a platform. In that essence, you can say that what Krishna is telling Arjuna over the whole of Gita, like the essence of bhakti yoga or dhyana yoga, when you do these yogas is when you're getting a platform of the candle. Before that, it's just a matchstick that is in your hand, which will blow off in a short time.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you, Yogeshwar. I'll simply add a very simple point. I think it's all about direction. It's like you're trying to orient yourself towards the center versus away from the center or sideways. And if you do not pay attention, if you start drifting, you will start drifting away from the center. So it's an intentional process. And Gita talks about 4 different ways of moving, moving towards the center. It's all about kind of direction. The Bhakti Yoga is all about loving the center. Jnana Yoga is all about trying to say, what is it? What is it? What is the core of my being? What is the center? Asking that question. Karma Yoga is doing every action that you possibly can towards it. And Dhyana Yoga is to keep your attention focused on it. So these are the 4 ways. And no matter where you are, how badly you screw up, you have the ability with you at any point to turn towards the center. And that is the redemptive quality. That's how I would put it. So folks, I want to tell you, okay, thank you. Yogeshwar, you need to go pretty soon, right?
Yes.
Okay. So folks, I want to tell you that we are going back to the Thursday and Friday schedule. And I want to explain to you in depth why we are doing that. Okay. It's very interesting. What we've been doing is that we've spent how many meetups? 4 meetups on Carl Jung. The reason we looked at Carl Jung was partly, Yogeshwar brought it up that he wanted to learn something about psychology. And I thought that Jung was the perfect place to begin. Also, I found that Jung, the book that we looked at, we looked at 2 works, 7 Sermons to the Dead and Modern Man in Search of His Soul, actually captures the problem very well of saying what is the significance of the focus on the spirit in the modern world. The Sermon to the Dead does it in a literary way, in a very deep way. The public lectures, which are collected together as Modern Man in Search of His Soul, do a fantastic job. Okay, and we went through 4 of them, and I found something really interesting. I have tremendous respect for Carl Jung. I'm a big fan of Carl Jung because he's one of the pioneers in trying to figure out the psyche in the West. His understanding of psyche is very deep. As we went through it, as we went through these 4 things, I found something that I did not expect to find. And that was that he's identified the problem very well. And there was a solution to it in the past. There were solutions to it in the past. The problem that he identified is Modern Man in Search of His Soul. He's saying that most of us in the West are focused on the outside. And by being almost exclusively focused on the outside, we have lost the sight of inside. And that is not a healthy situation. You need to bring the focus on the inner back. That's the work. That's the point that he makes in that series of chapters. Now, what I found was that the work that we have done here on 52 Living Ideas with the Gospel of John, with Tao Te Ching, and with Bhagavad Gita actually has captured that spirit amazingly well. Actually better than what Carl Jung understood. Carl Jung understood it in the following way. He said that he actually has three parts. He says that there is an archaic mind, which is our evolutionary heritage, which is when we are in a tribe of 30 people surrounded by people, by basically family that we know. That's one kind of existence. Then there is the middle existence, which is the time of Gita, Tao Te Ching, and Gospel of John. This is the axial age. This is also the time of the birth of philosophy in Greece. That time. And then the third time is the modern times. Okay. So what he's saying about modern times is that the modern man has become dualistic. He sets up inner and outer conflicts. We saw it in various ways. We saw it in the spiritual problem for modern man. We saw it in the East versus West in that. And we also saw it in his description of stages of man. He holds that in the first half of life, you're taking things in and conforming to the world. And in second half of life, you discover your inner self and express it and add to the culture. Now, so these are three things. Now, what I found was that our conception of what this axial age is like, what spirituality looks like when it is integrated with life, I think is much more deeper than what Carl Jung thinks this spirituality was in the past. So for example, Carl Jung himself is very integrated. His thought is very integrated. He's all about integrating conscious and unconscious, the outer and the inner. That is his profound concept of self. But when he looks at Gita, when he looks at the Bible, he sees them as being dualistic, of setting up God and the devil as opposite poles. What we have studied here is that we have seen kind of the unity of spirit and matter that exists in Gita that we are talking about today. The same thing that we saw in Aquina's commentaries on Gospel of John, and in Gospel of John itself, also the same thing we saw in Tao Te Ching. So that unity. So I think integrating, grasping that fully and integrating it with modern life is a much better way, much more direct way than saying that, than holding that these ideas like Bhagavad Gita or Bible are dualistic. That is a Platonic version of it rather than Aristotelian version of it. And then somehow saying that, okay, now you have these two dualistic things, one in the past and one now, and how do we put this shebang together? That's how I see Jung approaching it. So what, I had a conversation with Yogeshwar and Evanik, and what we've decided is that we will finish Bhagavad Gita first. And then we will look at psychology again. So we will be finishing it. We got chapters 7 and 8. These are lengthy chapters, and Yogeshwar is doing such a fantastic job of covering them in depth. So we will go ahead and finish them. I expect we have about 12 more meetups to go. Yogeshwar has broken the different chapters up into sections. So we have about 12 meetups to go, because chapter 8 is particularly long because it brings everything together. It's the most amazing chapter. It's like the culmination of Gita. It is like the dome at the top of the structure. So that's, it's going to be amazing. So let us finish that. then we would have finished Bhagavad Gita, Tao Te Ching, and Gospel of John. And then let's see where we can go from there. So that's why we are moving to Thursdays and Fridays. I had originally said it, put it for Sunday, but I'm changing it to Thursdays because Sundays, different people have different plans. So Thursdays and Fridays is what had worked for most of us. So I'm hoping that it'll continue to work for all of you. So we are going to do this on Thursdays and Fridays. Now, if you have any comments or questions about this decision, any comments about Jung, any comments about Gita, how do you feel about Gita? I want to open it up for a general conversation on anything that you want to say, either about this, the spiritual problem of modern man, Carl Jung, about Bhagavad Gita, or anything that you would like to say. Just go ahead and type a exclamation mark, and would love to hear from you. Go ahead. Ambika, go ahead.
I just signed up to, for next Thursday, but it's looking really odd to me. It says 4th to 4th.
I'm just setting all of it up. It'll all be cleaned up. Don't worry.
Not a problem. Thank you.
Okay. Next up is Rupali, followed by Joe. Rupali.
So a general comment about participating in the meetup on Bhagavad Gita, I would say, has helped me just apply those principles in my life and be more clear in my own direction. Also, having the strength to and courage to do things that otherwise I would have feared. So I just feel that this meetup has been very helpful. And then, of course, the other benefit is having great friends, across the ocean, the continent, and yet I get to see everybody. So this is wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Rupali. Next up is Joe.
Yeah, the Gita has been a transformative experience for me on a number of different levels. But, and I've really enjoyed these sessions. I've also enjoyed actually getting to read a little bit more about Carl Jung as well. Carl Jung has been, it's difficult. It's definitely not necessarily the easiest read. But I think he's absolutely has something very important to say about where we are right now, or where we've been in the past 50 to 75 years and where we are right now. And as far as the Gita is concerned, this is something I was thinking about a little bit earlier this evening, is just maybe I'm speaking to a friend about this, about going through these sessions together, and he's studying the Gita on his own, and maybe using these as a class, and kind of just what I have, my new goal with the Gita is to really kind of get knowledgeable with the terms, the terminology itself. So I've kind of downloaded a whole list of terms that I can actually, so that I think it's really important, because I found that sometimes I get lost in the words and the translations. And so I think I have a pretty good dictionary now. And it literally, I have to go back to, this kind of sounds like a little bit of, I don't know, grade school-ish, is that it's, memorizing terms, just making sure, I have the context. I have the context from everybody here, but it's just making sure that I actually know the terms that I'm using when I'm talking about it. So I think that that's my next challenge with the Gita, but it's been transformative. I especially actually really appreciated learning it as well, going through our transcendentalist meetups. And you can also see some real, some relationships to Stoicism as well. So that, those three things have been, it's been a lot of fun.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you, Joe. One point I want to make, I almost did this today. Unfortunately, Yogeshwar had to leave early, but what I want to do is I want to invite everybody to identify Sanskrit terms that they would like to talk about. Like even, for example, the name Sanskrit itself. And what you will find is it's just incredible connections here. Like, for example, civilization is called Sanskriti. So that's like internalizing the Sanskrit. It's the language that becomes part of this. So there's just so many connections. So think of any word like Shraddha, what Yogeshwar did with Shraddha today was incredible. And I am just so impressed with how well Yogeshwar has been doing this. He's very in depth. He understands the subject very well. He's able to answer questions, and he's able to actually relate to the Western audience. So I think it's working just so well. We're also going in depth. We're not just kind of taking the surface view. We are diving deep into different things. And he is bringing in the context of the general Indian culture, because you can't understand a work like this without the entire envelope of culture around it. So he was bringing some of that as well. So thank you. But if you have any words, please keep a list of words. And there is, because what happens is that actually seeing the roots of the words is far more powerful than just looking them up as meaning. Because in meaning, it combines things. Like, for example, Shraddha, right? Shraddha has Sat, truth, as one of the roots. And Dha is like hold or give support to. So it's like you are literally holding on to the truth that you once saw, and you're going with that. So it's like it's a very visual, very powerful way of actually seeing these concepts work. And as as Julian Jaynes says, all the concepts of consciousness are metaphors of physical things. So you're basically holding on to something that you saw for a second, and you're holding on for dear life. And you're holding, so it's not like just you kind of got it like this and let it go. You're holding on to it. Your entire body is behind it. So there is action along with it. So there is sight and action, which is what you're doing internally when you have Shraddha. So it's just very, very powerful to understand. So please, keep coming up, keep with a list of, come with a list of words that you would like, everybody. And what we'll do is that whenever we get a chance, we will introduce those. Okay. Evanik, Ambika, and Kanishka.
Since we've been studying the Gita, I didn't know how much I was grasping until I went back. Today, I started listening from chapter 1 on YouTube. And when I first started the Gita, I had no idea what that was really about. And today it just clicked to me, even when they're starting with the battle. And I think it's like the precursor to chapter 1 where they're explaining what's going on. And Arjun is like, I don't want to fight and I don't want to battle. And I was like, yeah, I get that. He doesn't want to kill people. And then I thought about it. And I'm like, if you think about it as a story, and I guess this comes from studying Jung too, and I guess doing different works, I get that it's kind of like an internal battle in a sense. And if you're using it to tell the story, and studying Jordan Peterson and how he says stories are used, to bring some type of truth, it's kind of like an internal battle. Like you're battling. What I got from chapter 1, I got up to chapter 4, but chapter 1 especially, it really struck me because it was like you're battling like what you've learned before. And, in a sense, it's kind of a battle like who you're going to be versus who you are right now. And so I got that on a deeper level, and I would have never gotten that if I hadn't did these meetups or first of all, I would have never even studied the Gita if it wasn't for 52 living ideas. Like, I didn't even know that was a thing until 52 living ideas. So that's the first thing. And then the second thing is, what your Yogeshwar and what you bring when you bring your explanations really helps me to realize how this is so applicable to everyday life, and not only everyday life, but internal growth and getting to the center of who you are, and kind of like creating the person you want to be, and realizing that that is a reality. Like, you can create the person you want to be. So I really have gotten a lot of growth out of this. I've noticed a lot of things about myself throughout this journey, and I'm happy that we are going back to the Thursday and Friday night, but I also loved Young, so I'm kind of torn, but I am glad to go back to Gita Thursday and Friday nights. And I love the commentary. I love the group participation, and I get so much from every single participant here that speaks up and says something or writes something in the chat. And, it makes me think a little more. So yeah, it's been a great experience.
Wonderful. So I'll say two things. So both Evanik and Joe, we are not abandoning Carl Jung. Okay, we will come back to these themes, except I want to come back to it from a greater perspective. I want to finish Gita and then come back to it, because you can see the depth of psychology that is being presented here in Gita. Consider today itself. This is actually very deep psychology. Okay, so that's one thing. Second thing I want to say, I want to point out 4 characteristics of Gita that one of the speakers here really did a very good job of capturing it, that distinguish it from other scriptures. So firstly, this is taking place in the middle of a battle. Okay, this is like life and death situation, the height of war, the largest war. These two people are there in between the two armies, and they talk for 2 hours. That's where it happens. So it is not a passive, it's not a passive intellectual thing that is being delivered. It is delivered in the midst of action, and the purpose of it is for action. That is very, very clear in the context itself. The second characteristics, which is very unusual, is that it is a conversation. It's Krishna talking to Arjun, his best friend. They are best friends. They love each other, and they are talking back and forth. And you can see that, Krishna says something, Arjun asks him, oh, if you said this, what about that? Okay. So that conversation back and forth. So it's not, and it is tailored for Arjun. He's talking to Arjun. He's saying, you are like this, so this will be useful to you. And he's taking him step by step through his understanding. Third part, which you can see as a crucial aspect of this conversation, is that Krishna has respect for the mind of Arjun. Krishna never tells Arjun, do this because I tell you. No, he always says, this is possible, this is possible. If you do this, this happens. If you can do this, this is a little better because of these reasons. If you can't do this, you can do this. He's offering him. And then at many places, he explicitly says, don't listen to me. Go back and connect to the Atma within you and speak and act from that. Now, this is a profound respect for the individuals. And the fourth part is that there are 4 different paths. Krishna is continuously describing, oh, you could do it this way, you could do it this way, you could do it this way, you could do it this way. You can use your love and devotion in Bhakti Marg. You can use your intellectual ability in Jnana Marg. You can use your ability to work in the Karma Yoga. Or you can use your ability to concentrate, or any combination. And all of them are going to lead you to the same thing. And you're going to improve on the others as you go on this path. So those are the 4 characteristics I wanted to point out. Next up is Ambika, followed by Kanishka. Ambika.
It's not very important, Shrikant. Just wondered why, the word Sanskrit, in the South, they say Sanskrit. Do you know why?
No, let's ask a person who knows. We'll ask that
Yeah,
because it's not a question of just pronunciation. There is patterns of pronunciation which are different, and I don't think there is any significance to the difference in pronunciations across the cultures, subcultures of India. But what is important is understanding the roots of this and exactly what is the meaning of the roots. So, and that we have to ask Yogeshwar. Okay, thank you.
I ask because when Amma comes in, she always says Sanskrit and some other words as well, where the N becomes a Ma. And so
that is quite common. India has many languages, and the way in which things are pronounced in one language versus the other is different. So if you actually look at, if you go further and if you look at how different languages like Marathi, Bengali, Hindi evolved from Sanskrit, you can see how the same root word in Sanskrit is pronounced differently in different places, and it actually takes different forms. And this, pronunciation is just one aspect of this kind of diaspora of Sanskrit through various languages. Thank you. Next up is Kanishka.
So I again had a follow-up question with what I had asked earlier to Yogeshwar as well, and this was regarding anything that Gita would suggest. And to be specific, does Gita have anything about prioritization? So, for example, to reach the center, I understand that 3 things might work, but out of those 3 things, which one should I try out first to check if it works or not? Then the second, if it works or not, then the third. If I find in the best case scenario, the first one itself works for me really well. So does Gita say anything about prioritization?
Okay, that's a very good question. I won't be able to authoritatively answer that question. You can ask it to Yogeshwar next time. The only thing I know is that again and again in Gita, Krishna uses the same form. The way he puts it is that he doesn't talk about prioritization. He's saying these are the possible paths. Let me list all the possible paths for you. Then he says, if you went this path, it is the most direct, but it is harder. If you went this way, it is a little slower. If you went this path, it is a little dangerous. You can get there, but it is a little bit dangerous. It's very easy to get distracted by false things. So he maps it out. And then he says, look, it's up to you. You decide what works for you. So there is this concept of kind of looking at yourself, looking at your own experience and trying to figure out. So one part is kind of mapping possible ways. And second, leaving it to the individuals to try these out and to try to, the term that keeps coming up is swabhava. So that is your own nature. So understand your own nature and choose a path that works well with that. All right. Anybody else would like to add anything? Last chance. All right. So thank you very much, everybody. We'll see you on Thursday. I want to tell you, we have got some amazing meetups going on. On this Monday, we're doing poetry reading. And the poet that we are going to focus on is Khalil Gibran. He's an amazing poet. If you have not read anything by him, He's the guy who's written a book called The Prophet. I've listened to it. It takes about 1 hour, 40 minutes to listen to the whole thing. So I would recommend that. And we also do collaborative poetry on Mondays. And then, look forward to having you for, continuing on Thursdays and Fridays. All right. Thank you very much, everybody. See you soon. Bye.
Thank you, Shrikant.
Bye.
Thank you, Shrikant. So there's no Sunday, right?
Nothing Sunday. I moved that. I'm moving that to
Okay.
Thursday.
Okay.
Yeah, because
All
what
right.
happens is that I think it's easier for people to do it on Thursdays and Fridays. Just weekdays, it becomes easier.
Yeah.
Just want to move it, and I had to decide whether to move it immediately or wait for one more. And I decided it's Sanskrit. It's called Shubhasya Shigram. So once anything that is important, it is auspicious if you do it earlier than later. So you do it as fast as possible. So
Okay.
that was the principle. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye, everybody.